Hi, my name is Eva Steiner and this is my project Psychotherapists Around the Globe. I am interviewing the psychotherapists around the world and asking them the same 8 questions. I am wondering how mental health profession is in their country. Today we are going to Thank you for doing this interview with me. Before we start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Adela Zeberi. I am a psychologist. I finished my master's degree in the United Kingdom, but I'm originally from the Czech Republic, where I also reside now. And I am a psychotherapist in training. So I also have my private practice in Prague, but I also do therapy online, as I mostly work with young adult expats who either live in the Czech Republic or who are Czech but live abroad.
Okay, the first question. Tell me a little bit about your culture. What is some holiday or traditions that your country celebrates? And if your country would be an emotion, what emotion would it be?
Czech Republic lies in the middle of Europe. I would say that the Czech culture is wildly influenced by the surrounding countries. And also a huge influence to the Czech culture is a Slovak culture, as we used to be one country until 1993 when we separated, but actually until now, the relationship between those two countries is very brotherly. And until recently, until the war in Ukraine started, Slovaks were the largest minority in Czech Republic, but nowadays they are the second after the Ukrainians who immigrated to Czech Republic.
Why did the countries separate?
Actually, the country separated because of different political opinions. I would say that Czech Republic, since it's larger than Slovakia, Czechoslovakia, the Czechs, they had higher power. And so the Slovaks, they wanted more independence. There was a kind of brotherly agreement on a political level that, okay, the countries can separate, but still the relationship and the support from both sides and the cooperation stayed very close. And even nowadays, let's say immigration, but we don't really see it as immigration for Slovaks to Czech Republic or for Czechs to Slovakia. It's very easy to do. Even Slovak students can study at Czech universities and they can speak Slovak, they can write their dissertations in Slovak. Yeah, as I say, the cooperation is very close and many Slovaks live in the Czech Republic.
What is a holiday or traditions that the country celebrates and the emotion?
Of course, we celebrate many state holidays, especially in October and November. We have 28th of October, which was the constitution of Czechoslovakia, and then 17th of November, when it was the Velvet Revolution, which was the fall of communism. What is interesting that the 1st of January of 1993 is the constitution, let's say, of Czech Republic, but we don't really celebrate it much. We much more celebrate the constitution of Czechoslovakia. Other than that, I would say the biggest holiday is Christmas. Also Easter, but I would say that Christmas is the biggest holiday which all Czech families celebrate together and even friends celebrate together. But actually, Czech Republic is one of the most non-religious countries in the world, or definitely in Europe. I would say that the fact that we still keep on celebrating Christian holidays is quite of unique when for many Czechs, they don't have the religious meaning anymore. And concerning the emotion, I would say that Czechs are very curious in a sense. Back in the day, everybody was keeping their lives very private because of the communist rules in Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia back in the day. And I would say that it's naturally made people quite curious what is happening in the neighbor's household or what others are doing because they didn't want to share much. And I think this curiosity still stayed within the culture. But at the same time, when I was thinking about it, I think in many people, there's still also a bit of fear to do something different or to be different than the others. And I think that's also a topic that is very present in psychotherapy.
And I know it's popular that or at least it's known oh no, Czechs are not nice, they are mean to tourists. Is that true to it or not?
I hear that a lot from tourists who come to Czech Republic, and I think it has to do plenty with the fact that customer service in Czech Republic has very low quality. I think that's what the tourists meet the most often, the people who work within the customer service. And it's again connected to the history, I would say, because back in the day, in the communist era, nobody could have their businesses. And when communism fell, and people could start opening their businesses. Anybody who was into it, let's say, could open a cafe, a pub, a restaurant. Yes, unfortunately, the customer service is still bad, but I think it also has to do with the fear that Czechs have. Because in the past, many times when foreigners came to the Czechoslovakia, or even before, they wanted to rule over us. I think that still this inner fear of something unknown or somebody coming from the outside creates the tension. But luckily nowadays, so many also of Czechs, and especially the younger generation, they travel all around the world. They speak English very well. They are educated. So I think everything gets better. But unfortunately, I hear a lot from tourists that the customer service is very poor and the Czechs sometimes can be unfriendly. Yeah. If I can say more to that, also from friends who are foreigners and they live in the Czech Republic, they say it's very difficult to find Czech friends at first, but when they find some, let's say colleagues or through sports activities or I don't know, their partners, friends, then they can stay friends forever. So I would say that at the beginning it's a little bit more difficult to get among the people and the culture. Yeah.
Okay, the second question. How did you become a psychotherapist in your country and what is your therapeutic approach?
So first I finished my psychology degree and I applied for psychotherapeutic training, which lasts 5 years. For me, the training is still ongoing. I'm being trained in systemic therapies, so also including family therapies. From a second year of the trainee can actually start working with clients under supervision. So that's what I'm currently doing.
And you mentioned that you also study in UK.
Yes, I did my university degree in the United Kingdom. So when I got the degree from UK, to be able to practice and have my private practice in the Czech Republic, I had to get my degree nostrified here or legalized here in Czech Republic. And actually, I can say that the process was quite smooth. The legalization of foreign degrees when they are from authorized university seem to be quite easy.
And in general, in Czech, how can someone become a psychotherapist? Do you need a psychological degree or can you go directly to the therapeutic approach like you are doing now? You know, like 5 years of systemic therapy. How it is there?
Until recently, the most common way how to become a psychotherapist was to either have a degree from any humanistic field. So somebody could study psychology, social services, pedagogy also, any of these humanistic degrees, or medical degree. Being a nurse also was possible then to go for psychotherapeutic training, or somebody who studied to become a psychiatrist, and then they could apply for the psychotherapeutic training. Currently, there's been a lot of changes made, and some of the psychotherapeutic trainings, they also accept people who do not have degree from humanistic field, but they have to have university degree. And then they can apply and they are evaluated if they are suitable for the training and they can become trained as well.
Mm-hmm. And is there any law for psychotherapy?
Currently, there is no law for psychotherapy. There is law for psychology, psychiatry, but no law for psychotherapy. But it's probably also going to be changed within, I would like to say within a couple months, but not really, probably a couple of years. And most psychotherapists who practice, they are members of psychotherapeutic associations. There is two large psychotherapeutic associations. One is more on the medical side, one is more on the private practice side. And the members, then they are required to follow the ethical code of those associations.
And for example, let's say that I have a degree in economy and I go to psychotherapy and I finish psychotherapy study. I am part of these associations. Can I work in public sector or just privately?
Actually, I am not sure. I think mostly privately, but I'm not sure about the answer because this is something that is being changed. Until now, actually, even in the association, you could not become a member if you had economy degree. But from September, I think it's changing from this September, even those who have degrees outside of the humanistic degrees, they can become members. So that's going to be something new. Most of them, the practice is that most of them, they open private practices, but I think that possibly they could work in public sector, but not in hospitals, because they would not be clinical psychiatrists, psychologists, or psychotherapists. So then I would say that the biggest obstacle for them would be that they could not cooperate with insurance companies. So their clients would not be able to take the advantage of insurance reimbursing them for psychotherapy. But if they had clients who fully pay it by themselves in a private practice, they wouldn't have a trouble with, being in the field.
How society looks upon psychotherapy or any psychological help?
It's also changing quite a bit in the latest years. A huge shift was during the pandemic when people realized that mental health is serious and should be taken seriously. Now I can see that many young people, teenagers, young adults, they are quite open to getting psychological help. And I think they don't have the boundaries for asking for help as the older generations sometimes have. I work plenty with young adults, and what I can hear from them is they usually approach their parents first, that they would like to get help. And for their parents, it might be a bit difficult to understand why they need the help, why they cannot talk to them or to their friends. But then when the conversation starts between them, the parents, they are supportive in the young adults or teenagers that they should go to get the help if they think that it's something that they need. Also, I am talking mostly about how it works in Prague and other big cities. I know my colleagues, they also work in smaller towns or villages, but I am not sure how big the demand is there. I think the demand is there, but maybe the process for somebody to ask for help may be more lengthy, or they ask for help later on when there are some more serious symptoms.
And what is or was a mental health stigma?
I would say that the stigma is that only people who have serious issues need psychotherapy or psychological help. And back in the day, when somebody would mention that they're using psychotherapeutic services, psychological services, that somebody might think about them that they are crazy in a sense. But I see it's changing a lot lately. But of course, sometimes these ideas could still be there. And for the teenagers or their parents, the first reaction is usually that they take it personally. If their child needs help, what have we done wrong? So then I think it's a little bit more difficult for them to accept that the child needs some support, that at the moment, for example, the parents cannot provide him, or he is not comfortable enough to share the things with the parents.
What is your society teaching about child-parent relationship, and whether these values of society also influence how you design your interventions as a therapist?
So as I work with quite a wide spectrum of clients and also expats, I approach each client individually. And the interventions, that I do are also individually designed for that client, as I at the beginning have no idea from which kind of background the client comes. But even if I have two clients from Czech Republic or from Prague, their family history or their history can be quite different. But concerning the relationship between parents and child, I would say that in Czech culture, it's still embedded that the parent is the one who should be respected. 20, 30, and more years ago, when the parents said something, the child should not question it and just do it because that's what the parents said. Nowadays, it's of course changing, or it's still all the time changing, but now many young parents, I would say, are more open-minded and more liberal in raising their children. So they can ask for their opinions, they respect more their needs. We can also see that in the society or in our offices that also creates new issues, either the parents or then later on the teenagers are coming with. What is interesting about Czech culture or the parenting here is that actually we have 3 years of maternity leave. So the mom, she can stay with her child at home for up to 3 years and being supported from the system. It's very, very common that the moms, they stay with their children at home for this period. If they have, within the period, if they happen to become pregnant again, it can happen that the mother stays home for 6 years because she's raising two children. And of course, then later on they go to kindergarten. But still in the kindergarten, the relationship or the contact between the caregivers and the child is very, very close. And it's common that moms work part-time so they can pick them up from kindergarten, spend the afternoon together. And the nuclear families are really close.
And what is the role of the father?
Back in the day, the father was the provider. So he was going to work, bringing money in, and being the one who was very respected within the family and should be listened to. Nowadays, young fathers, they take on their roles as fathers and they spend much more time with the children than before. I would say that stereotypically, they are still the providers, but their role is seen as more and more important. It's talked about it plenty within the society, and there are also new possibilities for the fathers that they can also take part of the parental leave. So if they wish to do that, they can of course spend time with their child at home as well. But I would say because of the pay gap between women and men, or the stereotypical way how it is, they usually decide to work and the mother stays at home. But I can see, especially in Prague where I live, I can see plenty of fathers walking the strollers on the streets or being with children on the playgrounds, supporting them in their hobbies, taking them to sports, spending weekends together. So I can see their involvement is becoming more and more important for themselves as well, that they see the role as important part of their identity.
If an adult client would come to you and say, I don't want to see my parents anymore, I want to cut contact, how would you approach as a therapist and how would society look upon such a request?
As a therapist, I would try to explore the situation, their relationships within the family, how it's working for them. And at the end, if he realizes within the therapy that it's something that he truly wants to do and possibly even needs to do, of course, I would support them on the way, trying to make it functional for them, because sometimes I can see how necessary it is, especially for the young adults, to separate from the parents and to start living their life, let's say. Within the society, I would say that it's something that it's not looked upon necessarily badly, that there are families who cut the ties and the individuals, then they build their own families. So sometimes it happens. I would say that still the family on its own is very important to the Czechs, but if the relationship within the family is not working well, Czechs do not have issue to actually cut it and live on their own.
What are the learned beliefs regarding client-therapist relationship, and can the relationship continue outside the therapy once the therapy process is over?
I think this truly depends on the approach, on the psychotherapeutic approach that the psychotherapist has. For me, in systemic therapies, I see myself as a partner with my client. So I am not in a superior position within the psychotherapy, but more in a partnership. I think that shows then how the cooperation works. Psychotherapists, if they are members of the associations, they follow the ethical codes of the associations. And according to that, there should not be dual relationships with the clients. Of course, if there are psychotherapists who practice in smaller villages, smaller towns, it happens sometimes that some dual relationship may occur, but we as psychotherapists have the responsibility to do everything in our power to prevent that. And concerning the relationship with the client once the therapy is over, that is also a bit tricky because it poses question when the therapy is over. Because some clients can come back after a couple months, couple of years, and if in the meantime we would establish some kind of relationship, that would definitely hinder the work that would then maybe have issues to continue or would be more troublesome. According to the ethical code, we should not form any relationships with the client, even when we feel that the psychotherapy is over.
And in case of therapeutic abuse, so that the therapist is the one, maybe having love relation with the client or trying to form a friendship after, what can a client do in that case?
The client can report it to the association. And if that happens within some organization, if the psychotherapist works for hospital or some social service or organization, they can of course report it there. But if the psychotherapist has private practice, the client can report it to the association he is a member of. But if the psychotherapist is not member of any association, unfortunately, there is not much the client can do.
The sixth question: is supervision a must for a therapist in your country?
Supervision is a must when the therapist is being trained. So during the psychotherapeutic training, which lasts 5 years, supervision is also a big part of the training. Then, if the psychotherapist becomes a member of the association, supervision is also a must. If the psychotherapist doesn't become part of the association, or he does not belong to any organization, or doesn't work for a hospital or social service, then there is nobody who could force him to get supervised.
And if you are a member of association, after you finish your studies, how it looks regarding supervision? Do you need certain hours in a year?
I believe that once you become a member of the association, every 3 years, the membership should be renewed. And when you're going for the renewal of the membership, you have to report the supervision hours that you had in the meantime, and also the education that you undertook in the meantime, your development in the meantime. And there are certain hours that have to be reported. I am not sure how many hours within those 3 years the supervision has to be, but there are some rules concerning that. And the supervision can be individual or group supervision, so it depends on the therapist which one he prefers.
What are the most common complaints that a client comes to therapy for?
So to me, my clients come with issues in relationships and anxiety. Sometimes it's also self-development, that they don't necessarily have some symptoms that would make their lives more challenging, but that they want to work on themselves. But that's my specific group of clients. When I talk with my colleagues, they say that most of their clients come with anxiety and depression and also trauma. Lately, the self-development is quite popular. But since there is a lot of demand for psychotherapy, many clients who might go to psychotherapists for self-development, instead of that, they decide to go to a coach because they are more available, let's say.
History of Czech Republic,
is influencing some mental health states or feelings right now in Czech population? So basically, is there any generational trauma?
I would say there is, but I don't see it that much with my clients. With my clients, what I can see is that they are dealing with self esteem. And I think that's connected again to the culture. We consider ourselves being from a small country, although it's in the middle of Europe, but still, in our eyes, small country that doesn't have that much power. And many Czechs feel quite insignificant. So then, of course, it gets connected with self esteem and also the relationships, as I was saying, and also on more general level, the power in their hands to change things. So that's something that they, I would say, come to therapy quite often because they see how it's challenging their lives and their life decisions.
If you would share one tool, belief, or approach that is a must-have for you as a therapist, what would that be?
So for me, the belief is that everybody has a power to change. I think that if I did not have this idea in my mind, I would not be able to do the work that I am doing. And when clients come to therapy, they usually come in a point of life when something is not working for them as they would wish it was working, and they want change in their life. Sometimes they're not ready for the change, but I always approach them from the point that I believe that the change is possible. And I can see that it's helping me immensely in my practice, that I always have the hope that things would go well for them.